Almost Famous, classic story, Cameron, pretty much semi-autobiographical?
Yeah, semi. Now legend, it makes it complete autobiography, but semi-autobiographical. A lot of us as kids, the youngest guys in the room, being thrown into that, and anecdotes. But obviously, just as such a touching screenplay and script. And with that, we, of course, had the onus and the challenge of creating an original band that sounded classic, and got Mike McCready and Nancy
From Pearl Jam.
with Cameron writing some lyrics to cull together some kind of, with some great riffs and thundering pieces that turned out to be our Stillwater group in Almost Famous. And so those original songs and the band anchoring our story and musical design, and then of course letting the two of us alone with our record collections and our youth and our diaries from that period, and name it. I had 77 songs to score that picture. Scored the picture with those 77 songs. With Maguire, I remember everyone was stunned and shocked when we scored the picture to 32 songs. With this, we doubled it and then some. And we, again, it was, DreamWorks was very ambitious, very supportive, very nurturing to all things that Cameron would touch, and therefore everything that I wanted to do they allowed. Mo Austin being our record company, David Geffen being our movie studio. It was the ultimate equation for us, right, and the ultimate playground. And I ended up spending more on the music budget on that film in particular than I did on the entire Jimi Hendrix film that we're about to talk about. But the Almost Famous collection of music, the toughest thing was, making that volume 1, that first collection, that soundtrack that would be representative, and wanting to stay away from the hits, that always being kind of our middle name. But yet, being so proud of being the very first to convince Led Zeppelin to not only officially, Robert and Jimmy officially grant a song license of theirs.
Was that the first
for
one?
A film. They had done it inadvertently. You won't be able to find the scene now because it's been erased, but inadvertently there were a moment used in earlier versions of Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and I believe it was, I don't know if it was rock and roll, I don't know what the song was.
What
the story has been so
what
convoluted
did you use in
through
Almost
the
Famous?
decades.
I forget.
Almost Famous used 5, not one song, not 2, but 5 songs of theirs. And then Cameron and I were so confident. I begged him for my friend's trust. I felt so strongly that we should complete the film, not go in and ask them in front, which we had originally all but gone to the airport and waited for a plane. And I just felt so strongly that this was so ill-timed to go and to try to convince these guys who hadn't spoken to each other at that time, that year. And I just felt, again, it's just my odd sense of timing. I challenged Cameron. I wanted to wait till we had the finished film. And so we layered in 4 different songs, and I had spent a year and a half in kind of that Henry Kissinger role, the shuttle diplomacy between London and here, to try to just set a meeting and to try to pull Jimmy and Robert into the same room where we could screen the film. And with their great managers, Robert Rosenberg and Bill Curbishley, were able to get them the first time they had hung out in a year and a half. Jimmy had gone off with the Black Crowes when Robert didn't want to tour. Robert did something. And on the balmiest summer day, close to 100 degrees in London, Robert came from like the tennis court. Jimmy picked him up, and they drove in, reminiscing all the way. And, Cameron and I alone with our editor in the room, screening them in Soho, the Almost Famous. And I remember, the film ends and Cameron was, you know, out of his mind, nervous. I'd never seen him that nervous before. Maybe the marriage, maybe the wedding ceremony. I'd never seen him that nervous. Right. And it was really, really fascinating because we ended up going to dinner, the four of us immediately thereafter, talked about the film, got them so nostalgic and reminiscent of their touring days. Jimmy broke out some of the great stories. Robert challenging, you know, their competitiveness, challenging and countering with his anecdotes and stories, and you know, everything from drugs to girls to the road, and really one of the great dinners imaginable. And left them about 1 in the morning, and they drove off together, which was a great sign. And Cameron and I went back to the hotel, and we were so enthused and so, but also, you know, nervous.
Did they commit at dinner or no?
No, you know, no. We did everything but discuss business commitment. None of that. But their manager, Robert Rosenberg, you know, phoned me about. We left them at 1 in the morning. Phoned me about 1:30 in the morning. He goes, Danny, you gave them the car to drive back together. It's a good sign. He goes, this is a good sign. He goes, he goes, when are you guys flying back? And I said, well, we've got to leave for the airport at 7 a.m. to get to Heathrow. And so he goes, look, you land in LA at about 2, 3 in the afternoon. I'll fax your office. They still had fax machines then. I'll fax your office, 2000, 2001. I'll fax your office at Warner's, let you know where we stand. So I remember we land. We were too excited to go to sleep. We emptied our refrigerators in our hotel at the Dorchester. Great, great hotel to have to be forced to stay up till 6 a.m. to catch your plane. And we stayed up all night, nervous as all hell, but excited. And got on the plane, landed. We're waiting at baggage, get through customs, get through baggage. You sure I can't pound that table? We'll get through baggage, and I grab the cell phone, go outside a Bradley terminal to call, get reception, call the office, and they begin reading to me this fax saying, Danny, the boys love the movie. We have one problem, though. And as soon as that sentence was voiced by my secretary, the cell phone, of course, cuts out. I'm going, one problem, what could that be? I call back, and they go, Danny, I had placed a sound-alike. There was a cover album of Zeppelin songs at the time, and some we had used, not wanting to ask them for a 5th song, and therefore to have to somehow figure out how to afford that. I placed in just an acoustic section, maybe 22, 24 seconds of Maguire. And Jimmy,
which is an instrumental piece.
Yeah, and Jimmy Jimmy's first reaction to me on seeing the movie was, Danny, may I ask, what's that? What was that piece? Was as the guy gets out of the taxi at the end of the movie, just go see Penny Lane. And I said, well, that's yours. And Robert turns around and to compliment Jimmy says, and may I ask who performed it? You know, and I said it was just a cover. You know, I didn't want to ask you for it and bother you for such a trifle of a use. So Jimmy filed away, and sure enough told Robert, he goes, look, they've got 4 songs, they've only got this much money, fine. I want all 4 songs were approved, but on one condition.
They use the original.
Use the original Maguire. And I go, but Robert, you know, I don't, you know, I've stretched even David Geffen's wallet just to be able to cover these 4 songs of theirs. And Robert said, Danny, $1 American and you can have the license. Amazing. Master and Cinco Maguire.
Great story. Well, thanks for all that, man. That was a lot. That was a lot of stuff, but great stuff. Good stories, amazing career retrospective, and thanks to Danny Bramson. For more Q-Score, please check us out at emPOWERme.tv to find out what goes on behind the curtain and how the film and TV music gets made. It happens right here. Tune in.